So the process of humans learning really is in our DNA connected to relationship. It is not simply that knowledge can be transferred, downloaded, like Neo in the Matrix movie, oh, I know Kung Fu, right? The way we learn things is through interpersonal communication and relationship. It's how, when I take a piece of knowledge that I've read about, for example, it doesn't really become something that I've mastered as a skill until A, I've been able to practice it, but also replicate that in someone else, explain it to someone else. So collaborative learning, group learning, peer learning, pairing, those sorts of things, they all imbue into that educational situation the relationship component that is often, we scale that out of the equation so much. But when we bring it back, when we say, let's meet together and let's gather together, it forces you to say something to someone that as it's coming out, you're realizing, oh, that didn't make sense, or, oh, that makes more sense than I've ever thought before. Something about the way our brains work and the way we're wired DNA, it forces us to make those connections in a better way. So I'm very much a proponent of that kind of group-based, that collaborative learning. So mentoring means different things to different people. I define mentoring as the process of having knowledge transfer paired with time, relationship, and I think most importantly, accountability. I think what's missing for a lot of people is that the difference between learning from a teacher and being coached. For example, say you're going to learn some sport like golf or some other kind of sport like that. You're not just going to simply learn golf by watching a bunch of really good golfers on YouTube show you the perfect form and then maybe practice it a few times and be like, well, I know golf. No, the real process of that skill transfer would involve, again, a relationship with a person who knew it. And they would first demonstrate for you the perfect technique of the swing. And then they would, after showing you a bunch of times, they would watch you do it. And they would watch intently that you were doing it and correct every little micro difference and right here is when the wrist breaks and all of that stuff, right? And that's the key, the teaching and the key coaching parts. But where it really becomes is that a coach is going to check in on you. Not just when you're in the 1 hour a week lesson, but he's going to say, well, tell me, were you practicing this week? And they're going to hold you accountable to the fact that you not only need to learn a thing, but you need to practice a thing. And again, as we said, you need to be replicating that, showing that to other people. So have you gone out and played? Have you explained it to others? So, taking golf out of it, I play table tennis, for example. I play it semi-competitively, and I have a coach, and I think so much. It's because I'm an educator that I would think about these kinds of things, but I think so much about when he's coaching me. I'm watching what he's doing with me and how is he coaching me. And he's holding me accountable. Like I played in a tournament a few weeks ago and he was asking me like, all right, well, what did you learn? Where were your struggles at? And that accountability forces me to do the thing which I wouldn't naturally want to do, which is critique myself. Forces me to ask those deeper questions and to keep pushing and trying to get better. And so I think mentoring is really that for skill transfer. It is asking a person to make sure that they don't just hear something about JavaScript and then don't just practice it once or twice and say, okay, I got the concept, but that they're really implementing it. A mentor would be saying, well, show me some code that you've been working on and let's see how you're using those ideas and let's refine those kinds of things. Because it's not in the initial practice that you master a skill. It's only in the repetitive practice over time. And we won't keep to that repetitive practice over time if we don't have that accountability relationship to help us. So I think that's where mentoring, it takes education to that next level. Yeah, what I've been struck by already in the first couple of hours of hanging out with them is the level of excitement, even at the end of 6 days, there's still that kind of sparkle and that curiosity. Seems like they're very interested in the hackathon thing that's going to happen today, and curious how they're going to be able to implement their ideas and work on skills. So I think that kind of level of excitement and curiosity has been very refreshing. I kind of expected to have a bunch of people that were really tired after 5 or 6 really intense days, but they're still on fire and excited, and that's very cool to see. So what I think is good about boot camps is, as we mentioned, I think the relationship component, having people gather together, removing distraction, concerted effort, those are all very, very good, positive things. If you see other people working hard at something, it acts as accountability. It forces you, that peer pressure, if you will, it forces you to kind of put in that extra effort, forces you to maybe close down Facebook and Twitter and really dial in on that and hold yourselves accountable. I mean, musicians, for example, it's a great example of this. When musicians practice together, they're holding each other accountable, because you can hear when somebody has not been putting in the practice. And I've had musicians tell me that similar ideas to mentoring and coaching and accountability that we have in software development, they apply to musicians as well. Musicians have known for thousands of years that when they're in a group together and there's concerted focus and effort, it forces everybody to up their game. And I think the boot camp does that. One thing that I think boot camps suffer from in some respects is that there's the emphasis on the event, and then it's like a transaction that finishes. And you come out of one of these week-long intensive sorts of things, and then, or whether it's a week or whether it was 12 weeks long or whatever the boot camp format is, but you come out at the other end of it, sometimes you're kind of exhausted or you're looking for the next thing or whatever, and it's too easy and too quick for us to lose track of it. And so that's why I'm always have this emphasis on, it's good to kind of jump start a learning effort, but you have to come out of a boot camp experience, whether that was a day, a week, a month, a year, however long it was in whatever format, you have to come out of that dedicated and ideally have some relationships that you've built with the people so that there will be some of that accountability, so that you'll spread that learning out over time, that you'll stay curious, people will check in with each other. So I think the best boot camps are ones that that cohort of people is going to stay connected in some way, whether it be a Slack channel or they continue to meet together once a month or things like that, to kind of make sure that it didn't just stop at the end of the program. Yeah, I mean, obviously it sounds like from your experience and the way that the questions that I've gotten, that you all have a very close attention to detail. I love the idea of having a really intense week to really talk about the ecosystem and the framework and go into those things. So just hearing from the students the kinds of topics that have been covered, quite clearly this is one of those camps where you're going to be expected to really go beyond what you just read in a blog and really get into the depth of that. So I can tell from that, from the experiences and responses from the students, that they've had instructors that are really pushing them. And that's good. I mean, that's what education, you shouldn't come out of an educational environment and be like, oh, that was all right. You should come out of it completely and totally exhausted, like mind melted, right? Because that's what you paid for. You paid to be pushed beyond what you could get in your own sort of self-learning.